I think it's about time that the truth came out about all this. For my wife's 30th birthday, I really wanted it to be something quite cool. So, in order of what I thought would be awesome would be to become an international hero, um, to go to an international rugby game where we were sure to win. I say we, France, my adopted nation. To go on holiday with our friends, to go out to dinner, and to have a party with our friends. I've been in a huge company for a few years now, and I've been formed in such a way that I assess myself based on how many of these kind of overenthusiastic and unrealistic objectives I can obtain. I'm British, and I thrive on disappointment, so this kind of setup really is something that I'm quite at ease with. Set up a surprise party with a massive treasure hunt, clues buried under the garden, built into sections of brick walls, frozen in ice, hidden up trees, that sort of thing. And I booked some flights to Scotland because France was looking fairly good at rugby this year, and Scotland weren't showing much promise at the beginning of the season. I was lucky enough that we had some friends who were happy enough to come away with us at short notice. I needed some tickets to Murrayfield, but they were really very expensive, and incredibly they sold out in the first day. So I thought the best course of action would be to get to Edinburgh on a different pretext and then liberate some tickets by causing a national health scare. I called on an old friend who was a student. I met him when he was on his work placement in the company where I currently work. His life goals were fairly simple. One of them was to play rugby at an international level for his country, Italy, and the other one was to seduce a busty Scottish girl, I quote. I called him up because I thought he might be the best person to help me put my plan into action. After a few beers, we came to an agreement that the best thing to do would be for him to order a small sample of Spanish flu from the darknet and to contaminate himself. And when the Scottish women's team came to play in Stadio Flaminio, that he realized one of his life goals and seduce one of them, contaminate her, she would go back to Scotland, contaminate her teammates with, and that would cause enough of a health scare at the time when coronavirus was in its infancy that perhaps some people would change their travel plans and not go to a stadium with lots of people in it, but rather go to isolated places like national parks. This is where it all went wrong. When you go onto the darknet or when you go to any supermarket website, there's a little box that says, in case we can't find what you actually want, can we give you something else? The usual example for this is when you want chicken breasts and they don't give you chicken breasts, they give you turkey fillets. Same thing happened. He ordered Spanish flu and they didn't have any. He got coronavirus. He contaminated himself with coronavirus. He seduced a busty Scottish front row. She got coronavirus. She took it back to Scotland. She was the first person in Scotland to get coronavirus. She contaminated all of her teammates. The pretext that I had to get to close to Murrayfield was to go to Glasgow to watch the women's game, which became cancelled because all of the women's team were now contaminated with coronavirus. However, this did the job of causing a national scare, and it did the job of liberating an awful lot of the seats at Murrayfield. I actually read you what went wrong. He sent me the invoice from the order that he made off the darknet, and on the bottom of it, there was a small advert for a chap called Dr. von Hardenberg, claiming that he had the cure for coronavirus. And he was a lovely guy. He said that he was planning to post the cure on his Instagram site after the Six Nations were finished, under a false username because his real name was no longer credible, following an accidental outbreak of swine flu in his village, which was entirely his fault, made worse by the fact that he had started up his own small company selling pulled pork. He agreed with me that it was a bloody cool thing to find at the end of a treasure hunt, and that my missus, who has just graduated as a doctor, would probably have schools and hospitals and research labs and all that sort of thing named after her, and that was a really cool 30th birthday present. Dr. von Hardenberg lived in Amsterdam, and he said that he could only transmit the information in writing. He wasn't going to send it over the internet, but that he could bring it in person to Amsterdam 2 days before the match, and that he would be wearing a t-shirt with the mascot of our treasure hunt, the highly coveted golden cock. The 6 of us who were supposed to be going up to the game were all travelling via Paris. 2 of us with EasyJet, 2 of us with Air France, and 2 whose tickets I'd booked myself because the people concerned were bloody terrible at organising themselves, were going via Flybe. I had to call in a favour of my own from a girl who I'd met a few years earlier running a trail. She was a lovely lady called Christine. Long story short, she was the CEO of Flybe, and I'd helped her to set herself a new half-marathon personal best. And I had two friends on a flight going from Lyon to Paris on that date. Could she possibly find a way to reroute them through Amsterdam? And she said that it wouldn't be possible to reroute them through Amsterdam, but that she could if it would sort my situation out, put the company into liquidation, because business wasn't going especially well and people were starting to get a bit panicky about coronavirus and sales probably weren't going to pick up over the summer. All the customers who were on the flight going via Paris were just going to be transferred through KLM via Amsterdam. I felt confident that my friends were going to find Dr. von Hardenberg with the golden cock on his shirt, and they were going to arrive in Edinburgh in time for afternoon tea with the cure in hand. That evening my friends got to the hotel we were staying at. They'd spotted the golden cock at the airport. They presented me with the contents of an envelope. And that was it. That was all there was in there. Just a business card from the Pulled Pork Company. They sell one product which is made from pork shoulder, locally sourced, in a homemade barbecue sauce. Fine. There have been no recorded cases of the Pulled Pork Company's customers bearing symptoms of coronavirus, but for technical reasons which have gone way over my head, this is not considered to be a scientific study. Maybe if we share this video a bit, then we can cure the world and prevent the spread of this virus, which has been more than inconvenient for an awful lot of people. And that's it. That's how we found the cure for coronavirus. It is pulled pork made from locally sourced pork shoulder and a homemade barbecue sauce. That's good pork.